the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Drop it, man! Drop it!
Straight ahead on DC News Now at noon, we have new body camera footage out of Frederick County showing the moment before a deadly shooting there, a deadly officer-involved shooting there that was followed before by a deadly stabbing. We'll have the latest on the investigation. Plus, the family of a pregnant woman whose body was found decomposing in a Montgomery County apartment is speaking out. Their emotional statement ahead.
All right, folks, and we are checking out what's going on out there here today. Well, we pretty much have a clear sky in place, but we need to definitely check out some of those temperatures too at some point. So yeah, we are looking at things staying relatively clear as we move forward. There we have it. Yes, we're looking at low temperatures here this morning that we're down quite a bit into those 30s and upper 20s. It was a very, very frigid start to the day for many of us here. And look at this, Manassas, all the way down to 19 degrees here this morning. One of the chilliest spots, no doubt. We had a stretch of locations staying in the 30s, right at 30, as a matter of fact, for the most part, going from Cumberland straight across through Martinsburg, Leesburg into D.C., and then we had that colder air that was down off to the south here today. Look at Fredericksburg and Culpeper, usually two of our warmer locations, but today pretty much situated with those low temperatures down in the low 20s. Now, of course, the good news was that as we got into the morning hours, especially after the sun came up, things have been improving very quickly. That's the difference that sunshine can make, even if we only have it for a limited amount of time. We're to those shortest days of the year here this week. Winter is, of course, starting on your Wednesday. And look at that. The sun made all the difference. D.C., Waldorf, Lexington Park already into the low 40s, and Fredericksburg 41. There you have it, 20 degrees warmer already as we enter into those early afternoon hours. Still looking at some upper 30s, even a little bit chillier than that once you head west of Interstate 81. But hey, it's still an improvement, and we are going to at least continue to try to dial up those temperatures ever more so as we go into the later afternoon hours here today. So that's going to be the general trend we're talking about as we move along with time here. We're just going to have those readings reaching their peak over the next few hours. Some folks are already in the 40s. Others will try to get there before we hit that 2 to 3 o'clock window, before we start to see a little bit of a drop-off in those temperatures. And again, this is chilly, but certainly manageable as we go throughout this Monday, the week before Christmas. The other trend we're going to notice is the fact that we're going to have a few more clouds in the sky as time rolls along this afternoon, mostly just those high, thin clouds that will filter out the sunshine. It's not going to be completely overcast, completely gray, but the cloud cover is certainly going to be something that is a bit more on the consistent side as we go along with time. And then along with some of those clouds, we're talking about some breezy winds, somewhere around the 15 to 25 mile an hour range. That will be possible as we go throughout the rest of the day today. And then things do finally start to calm down as we get into the overnight hours. So Christmas coming up this weekend. Are we looking at a messy storm system arriving as we head into the end of the week? We'll have a check coming up here for you in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Damon. Well, new this afternoon, body-worn camera video has been released in November's deadly police-involved shooting in Frederick, Maryland. We do want to warn you that this video could be disturbing.
Drop it, man! Drop it!
Those were the seconds leading up to deputies with the Frederick County Sheriff's Office shooting that killed 23-year-old Aaron Mensah there. In that video, you can hear the officers telling him to drop that knife. One officer used a less lethal beanbag shotgun. Police say Mensah stabbed his mother and killed his father there.
I got taser. Drop it! Drop it! Drop it!
In the second video, Mensah running towards police with what they say again was a knife. He died on the scene. The state's Independent Investigations Division says deputies from the sheriff's office do not have body-worn cameras. They have said that generally they release body-worn camera and dashboard camera footage within 14 days. However, they delayed sharing that video. Investigators were conducting witness interviews. That investigation continues right now. While developing over in Montgomery County, the man accused of killing a pregnant woman and a gas station clerk is back in court today. Right now, the woman's family is speaking out about her death. DC News Now's Lex Juarez has the latest details from District Court.
Well, 31-year-old Tori Damian Moore is set to be before a judge in just about an hour. This is the second bond hearing that he's had in about 2 weeks today. The judge is deciding the bond on 2 first-degree murder charges. He is charged with shooting 26-year-old Denise Middleton multiple times, killing her and her unborn son. Her family sharing this picture of her with us. Police found her body decomposing in Moore's apartment while searching the apartment for another murder that Moore is charged with. The autopsy showed the baby boy would have survived if born at the time that Middleton was killed. Her family released a statement sharing more about her big, loving personality and how excited she was to be a mom. In part of that statement, they said, quote, "Denise was so loved by her family and so cared for. We are heartbroken that this was her story and reality." Now, her family also vowed to get justice for her and for her unborn son. We have that full statement on our website, dcnewsnow.com. Of course, as these court proceedings continue, we will be following them and bring you updates both here and online. In Rockville, I'm Lex Juarez, DC News Now.
And right now, we know that 2 teenagers were injured in a shooting earlier today in Southwest D.C. That happened earlier this afternoon. The investigation is still continuing there. It happened at first in P Street in the area of Nats Park and Audi Field. D.C. Fire and UMass says a man and a woman were hurt in that shooting. The holiday season is in full swing around the DMV, and last night marked the first night of Hanukkah. Our Dave Laval talked to people keeping their light alive despite the recent dark discoveries around the DMV.
Plenty of warm thoughts on a cold and windy night on the Ellipse as hundreds gathered for the annual lighting of the Hanukkah menorah on the first night of the tradition.
It was a great experience, a lot of spirit, a lot of what we call Kavanah, which is religious spirit, and an honor to be here.
Yet the festive atmosphere was slightly overshadowed by recent hate messages discovered around the DMV. Someone spray-painted anti-Semitic graffiti found Saturday at the entrance to Walt Whitman High School in Bethesda. It's the second such message posted in Montgomery County since November.
Together, we must stand up against the disturbing rise in anti-Semitism.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland spoke at Sunday night's program near the White House. For him, these types of attacks are personal.
As a descendant of those who fled persecution because they were Jewish, it is especially meaningful to be here tonight as we light this menorah in our nation's capital and under the protection of its laws.
We'll prevail. We've got to show our strength and just keep going.
The recent trend is causing many to reflect.
It's a shame that people can be so evil. I attended the Holocaust Museum a couple of days ago, and it's just absolutely unbelievable that people can be that way towards another human just because of their beliefs being different than theirs.
Near the White House, Dave Laval, DC News Now.
And right now, other local leaders are responding to the recent rise in anti-Semitic attacks in the DMV. Montgomery County Executive Mark Elrich denounced those attacks in Bethesda last night at a menorah lighting in Glen Echo.
The only way I think we can effectively squash it is to speak out, stand up, and say we're not going to tolerate it. This is not what our community is about, and we expect better. It should be very difficult and embarrassing to do what people are doing today.
Montgomery County has reported at least 4 incidents of anti-Semitic graffiti in the community in the last several months. And happening now, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is cutting the ribbon on the first phase of Northwest 1 housing redevelopment that planned today. The first phase begins with the opening of the Rise at Temple Courts apartments between Capitol Hill and the Noma neighborhood. Northwest 1 is a part of the mayor's New Communities initiative that began back under Anthony Williams' administration in the 2000s. The initiative plans to revitalize deteriorating public housing and surrounding neighborhoods into mixed-income communities. Also, right now, almost 1,800 customers are still without power in West Virginia. Thursday's storm knocking out power for thousands, and some of them are still waiting for the lights to come back on. This outage map from Potomac Edison shows where people in the Panhandle are still in the dark. Right now, the power company says it hopes to have power restored to most of the impacted customers by 11 p.m. tonight. Today, the former CEO of cryptocurrency exchange FTX is expected to agree to extradition to the U.S. Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested in the Bahamas last week. His arrest comes several hours before he was set to testify before Congress. He faces 8 charges here in the United States and could face up to 115 years if convicted of all 8 counts. His exchange FTX collapsed and went bankrupt last month. Last week, the former CEO was indicted on charges of wire fraud, securities fraud, and commodities fraud. Happening today, the January 6th committee is holding what's expected to be its final public hearing. Lawmakers on that panel are expected to recommend criminal charges against former President Donald Trump. Our Rashad Hudson is on Capitol Hill with details on what to expect in that hearing.
Later today, the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack holds what's likely to be its final public meeting. The committee has called it an attempted coup that warrants criminal prosecution from the Justice Department.
I think there's sufficient evidence to charge the president.
California Congressman Adam Schiff says the committee is also looking to take action against members of Congress who ignored congressional subpoenas.
You know, we have weighed what is the remedy for members of Congress? Is it a criminal referral to another branch of government, or is it better that the Congress police its own?
But what exactly would that punishment look like?
Censure was something that we have considered. Ethics referrals is something we've considered.
It's been almost 2 years since an angry mob of people stormed the U.S. Capitol. And for the last year and a half, the January 6th committee has been looking for answers.
That the central cause of January 6th was one man, Donald Trump, whom many others followed.
The committee is expected to release a final comprehensive report of its investigation. Criminal charges could also be recommended against former Trump staffers as well. You can watch that right now on DCNewsNow.com, and much more. We'll have more on 1 p.m. on DC News Now. Well, looking ahead, Title 42 is set to end this week after a federal judge declared the policy illegal in November. That legislation allowed officials to quickly deport immigrants because of public health protections related to the pandemic. As that policy ends, the White House claims our immigration system needs a complete overhaul. The Department of Homeland Security says they have a 6-point plan to fix those issues. They claim it will speed up the process for those entering the country and allow for easier removal of people turned away. Republican lawmakers say the situation has gotten out of control.
We have well over 2 million people a year that are illegally crossing the border now. And in the last 2 months, since the nearing of Title 42 is coming, that number is rapidly increasing.
The White House plans to make more border policy announcements before Title 42 ends on Wednesday.